Hey guys, I'm Si, and welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of the Andy Campbell Football Show. This is episode number 98. The show is available live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. A.C.E Podcast Nation is also, as you know, your home to many other great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts, and more. So do give us a follow on social media. And of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click that bell for notifications. Get uploaded every time we upload a new show or series, or we go live with our various shows. And of course, if you want to streamline your A.C.E Podcast Nation experience, then just follow at A.C.E Footy Show on all social media and LinkedIn as well, I believe. And you can get just the football stuff. But of course, you can get the audio versions of everything on your favorite podcast and radio platform. If you just search A.C.E Podcast Nation, it's like 342nd or 343rd show, I think this is. So there is plenty of content. But as we wait for the various platforms and chat rooms to fill up, a big thank you to Black Diamond Sports as ever. Black Diamond Sports is a global sports agency who represents sports stars from around the world. And for more information, you can visit their social media pages, their LinkedIn pages, and you can, of course, visit their website, which is beautiful. And the links to all that are in the description below, as well as the closing credits at the end of the show. A big thank you to the sponsors of today's show, which is Bespoke Financial, and particularly Darren Ralston of Bespoke Financial. He's currently giving away a free will worth £140 with any new policy which is taken out. So go check him out, give him a call, see if they've got anything which might help you out. Because I think, at this time and the way the world is, insurance and cover and things like that are vital to the way we're going. We're definitely going to be going into lockdown after Christmas. And if, things like mortgage cover, they are vital at this point. And we'll have a little word from them a bit later on with a short video, only 30 seconds or so. But I urge you to contact them. They're top quality, providing excellence, award-winning service. And we are very proud to partner with such a top-class brand. And we thank them for sponsoring the show. So you will notice this evening, there's only two of us. We have decided, next Monday is our 100th show. So we decided we're going to go old school, just me and the legend. And we're going to talk football. We're going to talk South Wales Derby. We're going to talk all sorts. We're going to go back to the old format. It's going to be phenomenal. But of course, joining me is the goal collector, the fox in the box. He is the king of the over 40s league. He is an ex-Middlesbrough and Cardiff City striker. He is still a goal machine. And he is David Jones's favourite. It is Mr. Andrew Campbell. How are you, mate?
Good evening. Yeah, I know Alan Jones just put something in the group chat about smiling about what happened at the weekend, and my day got a little bit better at the weekend. Obviously, I'll go on about that a little bit later on. But yeah, I'm good. It's been a long, cold week since last week. Just trying to put a few smiles on people's faces, Si, and I think doing this a little bit more laid back tonight, a little bit with a bit more freedom for the viewers as well. I think it'll be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. It reminds me a little bit of just how we started. And I know we're going to go back on and reminisce a little bit. But yeah, no, I'm really excited. It's sometimes it's nice to change away from the norm sometimes.
Indeed, mate, and like I mentioned, 100th episode next Monday, which is is phenomenal. And to finish the show tonight, we're going to have a little chat and a reminisce about some of the guests we've had on, our favourites, how the show's developed from what we initially thought it was going to be. We've ended up with two shows, and we're going to have a good chat about that. But what I would like all the viewers to do is throughout the show is tell us your favourite episode or your favourite guest which we've had on, and we'll have a look at them at the end of the show. And of course, send in your questions. And just before we get to the weekend, I want to kind of just make a quick mention of Gerard Houllier, passed away. Absolute legend of the game, phenomenal manager. And pre-Rafa Benitez, he was the only Liverpool manager really who got close to Fergie. He didn't really do it in the league in terms of getting towards Fergie, but he won a phenomenal amount of cups with Liverpool, and thoughts with his family, his friends, his former colleagues. It's very sad, but absolute classy gentleman indeed.
Oh, so listen, I was very lucky that he coincided with joining Liverpool the time that I was playing for Middlesbrough in the Premier League. So I was fortunate to play a couple of games at Anfield against his side, who absolutely walloped us a couple of times, to be fair. The way that he had his team playing football, the way that he handled himself on the touchline, in the changing rooms, in and around the football clubs was it's phenomenal, you know. And you know, you get people who don't say a bad word about people. He's one of those genuine nice guys, you know. And look at that, the honours that he's won. I was looking earlier on for Liverpool. He's won the FA Cup, 2 League Cups, Charity Shields, UEFA Cup, UEFA Super Cup. You know what I mean? And then he just went over to France and won the league twice. And listen, the man just oozes class, doesn't he? You know, and it's such a shame. You know, this year, honestly, this year couldn't possibly get any worse. It's just been horrific for a number of reasons for everybody, and it just keeps getting worse. You know, they were losing so many good people. We're losing icons, and the quicker 2020 goes and does one and doesn't come back anywhere quick, the better, I think.
Oh yeah, it's been a rubbish year. Some really interesting comments already, mate. So obviously, a few people saying RIP to Gerard Houllier. And everything I've read about him today is not just a phenomenal manager, but an absolute gentleman and a top quality guy at that. And I think that speaks a lot, you know, to the kind of person he was and how he conducted himself. Martin Spate would like to know, is there booze in those bottles? Everybody wants to know. I'm assuming he's talking about the bottles behind your head and not the bottles that we drink out of throughout the show.
The answer to that is yes. There is. There's 3 bottles up there. One's in a wooden cabinet. The other 2. The bottles what mean quite a lot to me during my career. One's there's a man of the match I got for Middlesbrough. My first man of the match I got for Middlesbrough. I got it at Liverpool for my first full game, which was great. You know, my Alistair Brownlee, who sadly passed away, gave me it along with Bernie Slavin from the radio, and I promised that I was never ever going to open it. And to be fair, there's been a few close calls after a few tough weeks, months, and years, but no, I stuck to it. To be fair, and really proud that I can put them along with some memorabilia which I hold really close to my heart.
Spot on, mate. Can't fault you. So James asked, "Where's your Magnificent Seven?" And people think that I wasn't going to do it. Of course, I'm going to do it. I've changed it up for him as well to make it interesting, because obviously some of the questions which we have on the Magnificent Seven, Andy's already answered. So let's see what we've got.
Nervous here a little bit. Do you know the moment at the start when you said to me, "Do you want to know them?" And I said no.
Yeah. You changed your mind now. I gotta be honest. It's difficult to find anything really tricky for you because you've answered a lot of them, and obviously throughout different shows we've talked about various things. So it's difficult for me to find one which really puts you on the spot. But let's see what we come up with. Andy Campbell, the Magnificent Seven. Sean Morrison or Kabanga?
Ooh, Sean Morrison.
That's biased if ever I've heard it, I gotta say. There's no way in a million years that Sean Morrison's a better footballer than Kabanga. But
I might explain myself later.
Right, okay. Favorite TV show?
The Simpsons. I've always been a fan with my eldest Kennedy, so I'll say The Simpsons.
Absolute classic, that is. Funniest thing that's happened to you this year, with an example.
Funniest thing that's happened to me this year. I went for a bike ride during lockdown, and one of those moments when you fall off your bike and you check around that nobody's laughing, and there was just cars just like hilariously laughing at themselves, and you know what I mean, not asking if I'm all right, you know what I mean. I did wear a helmet, by the way. Stay safe, but yeah, you fall off your bike. No, not one person asked if I was all right. Just everyone just thought it was funny and hilarious that I fell off.
The angriest you've been this year? Saturday.
it's probably up there. Yeah, I think Saturday about 2:00. Yeah, it was probably the most angriest I've been. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get there, mate. Don't worry about that. Your ambition for 2021.
My ambition for 2021 is help Martin and the guys push Black Diamond to another level. Obviously push this show with all of you as support to where we want to go, But yeah, no, I think the plan all along with Martin and the guys is to just see where that journey is going to take, and that ride's going to be a good one, I think.
Martin,
Basically, texting Martin on the weekend.
And Leslie said the angriest you got was with him. Well, Isaac Fletcher or Mark Harris?
Isaac Fletcher. And Isaac's a young, for those who don't know, Isaac is a young midfield player for Middlesbrough, 18 years old. He's currently playing in Middlesbrough's under-23 team and has all season. So he's their standout player this season. His dad is an ex-professional footballer who used to play for Middlesbrough called Andy Fletcher. Good friend of mine, Andy, but his son's another level. His son's a very, very, very good player.
There we go. And then finally, the greatest Englishman who has ever lived. Doesn't have to be football related.
Well, I am going to go two. So I'm going to go one football related because I can't not relate to football sometimes. So I'll start with the football related one. I'm going to go Gaza. Because growing up, you know what I mean, Gaza was a hero of mine, and then to get the opportunity to play with him and class him as a teammate and a friend at the time, I think was something else, because I got to see a different side of him, and a side which a lot of people don't get to see, which is a nice side and a caring side of someone who's in the limelight all his life and constantly, which is good and bad, you know. So it's So I'll say Gaza. And my second one, I'm going a bit of geography, so I'm going to go on my hometown. So I'm going to go Captain James Cook, because obviously he plays a huge part in my history of where I live, Stewart's Park, where I go walking with my parents sometimes and my kids and stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna go Captain James Cook.
Good shout, that is, mate. I like that. I like that a lot. The Gaza one, like for me, Gaza was one of my idols, footballing idols growing up, like non-Welsh ones and Cardiff ones. And I got to say, he is one of the footballers who I would just love to interview, whether it was for like a mental health and sports show to kind of talk about some of the issues he's encountered, or just talk about his career. He is right up there in like my top wanted names, just to sit down and have a chat with him, because I think that I would just love to, just speak and just because he's that kind of guy who makes
just pick the bones out of everything. Yeah, and I think this is the thing for me, Si. You know what I mean? I think I'm probably going to contradict myself here. So I'd love to turn the clock back and be able to take all his problems away, and then see where he could have gone in the football life, and could he have been even better as a player? Could he have gone into coaching and managing and pass all his experience along? But then Gaza wouldn't be anything without his problems as well on and off the pitch. So you know what I mean? It's a whole package with him. It's all or nothing, and I think that's why everyone relates to him, because he's a real life person who was brought up without a silver spoon in his mouth, so to speak, and then worked hard from a hard working background with his parents, and became one of the, if not the best player in England, coming out of England anyway.
Yeah, I think
and that story, by the way, is just
the bus driving story is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I got to say, like with Gaza and all geniuses, not even just footballing geniuses, they all got like a bit of something in them, which comes with being like that next level of talented, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whether people like Van Gogh or musical talents like Jim Morrison or whoever you could, Elvis. They're
all geniuses, aren't they? They're all geniuses in their own right, in their own field. And Gaza's no different,
like something in them, and they.
Yeah. It's just meant to be. He's meant to be what he did, and what he did was just phenomenal. He could manipulate a football with his eyes closed. He was just born to be a world class footballer.
Indeed, mate. I just wanted to make a quick mention as well. Great Cardiff City fan friend Jay Jones, all the best. He's going into hospital tomorrow for some major surgery. So we just want to wish him the best and get well soon, really.
Yeah, totally. Can I second that side? Because, you know what I mean, especially with what's going on in the world, you know what I mean? Jay, I hope you have a speedy recovery. And if you're really bored, download all our stuff and listen to every one of our shows.
Indeed, the 343 shows on Ace Podcast Nation. There's a bit of everything there.
Yeah. And some of them some of them might help him sleep a little bit as well. So every cloud. What
are you trying to say?
Especially ones with me on them.
Yeah, well, Gaza was one of the best. Passion, and like our lot on Saturday, says Andy John. And you know, there's a few people who've already mentioned the lack of passion shown by Cardiff City, which we will get to in just a second. Kay Childs wants to know: do you ever speak to Keith O'Neill still? And he'd be a good guest for the show.
I haven't spoken to Keith for a while. Keith was a very good player, good lad. A little bit like I'd probably a little bit of playboy at the time. You know what I mean? He had obviously the good looks. He had a sweet left foot. He was amazing on and off the pitch. He was a really good lad. Obviously Ireland international as well. So he fitted in really well at the club. Worked hard on the pitch and played really hard off it as well in the pubs as well. So it was a win-win for us all really, because at the time it was different than it is now. Bit of a culture. But no, listen, good lad, good player, and I'd love to have him on. In Norwich hero as well, apparently. All the Norwich fans absolutely adore him.
Oh, there you go, then. Right. Let's have it then, mate. South Wales derby was on the weekend. Swansea City 2, Cardiff City 0. Speak to me about it, mate. You go first.
Listen, I'll start with the team selection. I was positive. I was very pleased. So obviously, the game kicked off at 12:30. By the time I got the team news about 11:15, I was quite positive that nothing changes. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And then the game started, and that was it. I'm not going to talk about passion. I'm not going to talk about tactics, because for me, on a big game, on a big stage, big players have got to step up. You know what I mean? I look at Swansea last year, Si, and I know we spoke about him quite a lot. Ryan Brewster. Every time Swansea had a big game, he stepped up. He's come from Liverpool. He's stepped up. He's really impressed. I was expecting Harry Wilson to step up and be a man and just show his worth and show how good he was and show that he's coming down from the Premier League and the Championship's a doddle, because it should be. For somebody of his talent and somebody of his ability, it should be. He got marked out the game, dipped his toe in now and again. And I look at the second goal when he's trying to bring the lad down for a late tackle towards the end. If you're going to do it, do it. You know what I mean? If you're going to really do it and you want to do it, don't do it half-hearted. I saw a lot of things being done half-hearted. And then the manager starts getting loads of stick at the end. And I'm starting to wonder why after Saturday he's getting stick. He's come off the back of four great victories, by the way, 4 unbelievable victories. His job is not for the players to show passion with. You know what I mean? The players should show the passion themselves on the pitch. You know what I mean? And you can overshow that as well. I thought Joe Rawls' two bookings were shocking. And Joe's a good friend of mine. Very disappointed that you can lose your discipline, because they were still in the game. Still in the game at the time when he got his red card, and you never know what's going to happen. Even 2-0 down, you've still got an opportunity with 11 men. 10 against 11, you've got no chance. I thought in the big areas, we spoke on Friday about fullbacks bombing on, about Cardiff City's fullbacks being pinned back, so Cardiff wingers not getting on the ball. It couldn't have got any worse, you know. Obviously, Kiefer Moore pulling his hamstring with the back heel. It got from bad to worse. The game couldn't have got any worse, because it's not just the game as well, is it? The game's bad, but the situation now is 10 times worse. The next game, Saturday, you've lost your centre forward for probably 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, if not longer, depending on how bad his tear is in his hamstring. Joe's obviously suspended. The manager's got to make at least 2 changes. Does he make more? Does he make wholesale changes? It's a difficult one now. He's gone back to square one in a really, really bad way, because of who they got beat by. You know, would fans have accepted beating Swansea and getting beat the 4 previous games? They probably would, but for me, well, that's what I believe. But now he's put himself under severe pressure for Saturday with his team selection more than anything, because for me, players have got to start taking responsibility. Players are the most important people, and I don't think enough of the players on Saturday morning, dinner time, whatever you want to talk about it, showed enough quality, heart, desire, and wanting to beat Swansea on Saturday.
Yeah, so for me, the passion thing and the heart and the commitment from the players, that's down to them. And I thought every single player outside of Mark Harris and there was one other as well, and I can't remember who it was, but there was 2 players who were not a disgrace. The rest were ridiculous. That's down to them, and I agree with you on that. However, I finished the show on Friday. I think it was one of the last things I said, and I said I was concerned that, I'm paraphrasing, but that Cooper would out-coach tactically Neil Harris. So I agree with you. Cardiff should have kept the same side. That would certainly before the game. That's what I was hoping for. I didn't want them to revert back to one up front, etc., etc. However, just because you play 3 in midfield doesn't mean with the players Cardiff have got, and I've talked about this a lot, playing players in their right positions to get the best out of them. Just because if they'd gone to 3 in midfield didn't mean that they had to go back to 1 up front. Harry Wilson is best at number 10. Everyone knows that. But because we've done better with 4-4-2, he's had to kind of fit him in a little bit and play him as a winger, whereas maybe he's better just playing off the striker. My problem is after 20 minutes, 10 minutes, half time, he didn't change it when Cardiff were just getting overrun in midfield. Swansea were keeping the ball for fun. We weren't pressing them. We had no urgency whatsoever. It was just like, it was as if Cardiff were playing friendly and Swansea were playing a top-class football match. Yeah. And the problem is, if it was the other way around, Cooper changes that 20 minutes in, 15 minutes in, and he changes his formation or he makes an adaptation to counteract what Cardiff City are doing. Harris was so slow to react. Even when Joe Rolls got sent off, he was so slow to react after that. And I'm looking at it, I'm just thinking, yes, if you'd offered me, 4 wins out of the 5 games, of course, I would have snapped your hands off for it because Cardiff had been so inconsistent and so poor at times this season. Yeah. So 4 out of 5 wins, phenomenal, great. But what you have to look at is it's not just the fact that we lost on Saturday. We lost to our biggest rivals, but we never were in it. We never looked like scoring. We never looked like trouble in Swansea. And he didn't change it. He didn't do anything about it. So yes, he's not to blame for the players not being asked. Of course he is. He should motivate them as a manager, but ultimately they're professional footballers. It is down to them to motivate themselves and show passion, and at the very least 110% effort. If you're rubbish and you're not good enough on the day, fine. If you've given 100%, I don't believe those players did that. And then obviously with Harris, I believe that he had plenty of opportunity to change it up before the game was done, because he didn't change it until we were down to 10 men and 2-0 down or whatever, and the game's over.
Yeah, it's difficult to say, isn't it? Because would the, what I mean? For me, it's so frustrating for the supporters because they would have played a huge part in the game. They would have played a pivotal role in the players. The players needed the fans on Saturday. I know we keep on going on about things about players playing with no pressure, and this was a point that we made at the weekend that game for me, Swansea had nothing to fear. Swansea went into that game with nothing to fear. They're not going into the Lions' Den because there's no fans there. They played with absolute zero fear, and if they got beat, well, they're expected to lose, aren't they? Because they're going to Cardiff City away from home. But they went there, they got the early goal, and then all of a sudden, Cardiff were chasing the game. They didn't chase the game. They just rolled over. And for me, the best team won by a country mile. And if they had a few more or a better centre forward alongside, obviously the lads who scored 2, then the game could have should have been a lot worse. Yeah.
I just remember, when you were talking, I was like, Ojo was the other player I thought played pretty well, but
he did
and that's ridiculous. Like Ojo and Harris, I believe, are the 2 youngest players in that squad. Yeah. Both gave 100%. Both looked like they were trying. And I thought Ojo had little bits of quality in there as well. But the rest of them, I only one team turned up, as Alan said there. But ultimately, we haven't got a very good recent record in the derby. And I don't know whether that's a lack of local players. I saw in the chat earlier on someone mentioned when Malky was in charge, but Malky wasn't in charge for that many Swansea derbies. I think it was only maybe one, possibly two. But what Malky Mackay did do with Cardiff is, yes, the football was dire at times, but if people came to Cardiff or Cardiff went to clubs, they knew they were in a fight and they had to fight for every ball, every goal. And if you went 1-0 down to that Cardiff side, it was very difficult to get back into the game because they were so good defensively, but they showed that commitment that they just didn't show on Saturday. And also, someone else then replied to that. And I think they said, obviously, they had Bellamy in the side, who is a Cardiff boy, has grown up, even if, him himself is a Liverpool fan, and history's been kind of changed a little bit. He is from Cardiff. His family are all from Cardiff. So he's grown up with that hate of Swansea, if you like. And I've got to say, I think that makes a difference, mate.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
And they didn't do their job.
Yeah, listen. I don't think a player should have to be from the area to understand how important the game is. You know that when I went to Cardiff, I fully understood from day one the hatred between Cardiff and Swansea. I fully understood that. I wasn't lucky enough to play in a South Wales derby. Yes, I'm a Middlesbrough fan, and I was lucky enough to play in a couple of Tyne-Tees derbies, Middlesbrough Newcastle derbies, Middlesbrough Sunderland derbies, but it was my job to turn up for the supporters. It was my job to win that game for that football club and to run through a brick wall. And for me, it doesn't matter who it's against. You know what I mean? Yes, but you should know the importance. You know what I mean? Before the game, you speak about it. Before the week before, the 2 weeks before, everybody knows. It's in the papers. It's on social media. It's on the TV. Everybody knows it's coming up. So you know what I mean? It should be the first thing in the forefront of everybody's mind is the importance of it. And I didn't see it. I didn't see the importance. It looked like just another game. And it
doesn't help as well. Sorry to interrupt you, mate. Just something you said there. It doesn't help when you've got the players putting out on social media or the club putting out a lot of quotes on their social media from the players saying they know how important it is. It means just as much to them in the build up to the game. Because what you then have with social media in 2021 or 2020 is when they perform like that and with the lack of everything is all those quotes start getting quoted, retweeted and quoted and replied to. And it creates this. You're always going to have negativity after a performance like that in a derby or in a big game. But social media, obviously, it stokes people up, doesn't it? Because one person who's annoyed speaks to several other people who are annoyed. Yeah. And that's where you get this influx. Yeah. Let's not forget, mate, as well, Neil Harris was back to the wall before this run of 5 games. He was nearly done. I think if he had lost the first 2 of those 4, he was probably going to go. Yeah. Or certainly the fans wanted him to go. So
I agree. Listen, it's a difficult one. You know, I mean, social media plays a negative role for me. Players are going into the game. You know what I mean? They're tweeting or they're putting posts out and they're doing things. You know what I mean? And we spoke about it, didn't we? About the negativity it's had on Paul Pogba. You know what I mean? And to players at Championship level, when you're going into a big game, you're putting far more pressure on yourself than you probably need to and should do. You know what I mean? I'm glad that social media wasn't there. But that's a difficult one as well, though, isn't it? You know what I mean? But they were a class above that side. That squad of players, that group of players, what the manager brought, which Dave Jones brought in, and other managers took over. They were at a different level. You know what I mean? And every one of them cared for a different reason. You know what I mean? And then when each individual cared, the collective unit cares. And it was difficult to see that on Saturday. You know what I mean? But then you've got the case which is against the grain is supporters weren't there. So you put supporters in there, the game would have been a different game. I do believe it probably would have been a different game because the Cardiff fans wouldn't have let that kind of performance stand and ride. It wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't have allowed it. You know, they wouldn't have allowed the manager to be tactically inept. They wouldn't have let the players not look like they didn't care. it's a difficult one. You know what I mean? That everyone's opinion's right because it's their own opinion, and that's the joy and the great thing about football. For me though, you can't replace players unless you replace them for better. You know what I mean? You've got to someone better's got to come in and take your place. Or there's no point.
Yeah. So I asked you a question, I think probably about a month ago on the Championship show about Benkovic. And I said, what was the point in signing him on loan when you don't play him? Now, either they've signed him on loan and they've suddenly realised he's not the player they thought and he's absolute garbage, or the manager doesn't want to drop Morrison, Nelson, whoever. And like Rob makes a point there, he says controversial maybe, but I would take Morrison out of the team for a few. So I think that is a little bit controversial. But, he scored the winner on Wednesday or Tuesday, whenever it was. But he didn't play well. Let's not forget he scored an own goal and he was poor. He was just in the right place.
Listen, Saya, every kind of selection is going to be controversial because the manager's also putting pressure on himself. Because if he brings Morrison out the team on Wednesday night against Birmingham, they get beat 1-0. Then the manager's decision is a really bad one, really poor one. You know what I mean? I look at, for me, I think Morrison had a really, really bad tackle in the first half, which got him a yellow card. And straight away from that moment, you knew then he was going to have a bad game because defenders getting a yellow card that early, walking on eggshells for the rest of the game, you're setting yourself up to fail. And as a centre forward, I know I'm just going to take him on because I know he can't touch me. I go near him, I fall over, he's got another chance. One more foul, he's done. You know what I mean? And he wasn't able to tackle. He never went to ground again. And the same thing with Joe. You know what I mean? Joe did a tackle, got a yellow card. Second half, you know what I mean? It was listen. Even if people think it wasn't a yellow, it was over the top a little bit from the area what I needed to do. And you know, yellow cards nowadays, it's nailed on yellow cards. You know what I mean? If that was the other way around, I'd be screaming for a red.
Yeah, it was definitely. Look, mate, I'm still fuming about it, and I to you, is Benkovic, does he deserve a chance now? Assuming he's not like terrible, and that's the reason he's not being in the squad and stuff. Is it time they change it up?
It can't be terrible. It can't be terrible.
What's that youngster who played fullback about a month ago?
Yeah, he played instead of Joe Bennett, didn't he?
Because Joe didn't play well on Saturday either.
No, Joe didn't have a very good game. No, but listen, Benkovic can't be a poor player because he's come from a Premier League side. So there's got to be some kind of quality there. For me now, the concern I've probably got now about throwing him in is he match fit because he hasn't played for. I don't know. Obviously the ins and outs, and is he playing under 23 games? Is he keeping himself match fit? You know what I mean? Yes, he's playing. He's training, he's involved in on the first team, but that probably means to me he's not playing as many games as he can. So when he does come in, will he be able to give himself justice to play? Whereas Morrison's obviously full match fit, full sharpness. You know what I mean? Yes, he didn't have a great game at the weekend, but you could have that. You could have that argument for probably nine of the players. You know what I mean? So for me, if Morrison gets dropped next game, then there's other players who probably could get dropped as well, or should get dropped as well.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I would assume Glatzel's going to start the next one because you'd think Kiefer Moore's going to miss at least. He's going to. For me, he's got to be at least 2 weeks. You know what I mean? With a hamstring like that, I know he hurt his hamstring, didn't he, for Wales against England? So and he came back really quickly with that. So, but that's my concern. Si, is there a weakness? Because if that really goes, you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks, and Cardiff City without the main man for 6 to 8 weeks I'm not sure the manager will be able to get over that and probably keep his job for that long if they don't get the positive results. Indeed, mate. Indeed. So moving on to a couple of things. I wanted to ask you a couple of things really on different stories. So before we get to the Arteta one, I'm going to go with the Burnley-Arsenal game. Granit Xhaka, he fell right into Burnley's hands. Burnley, by the way, I thought were outstanding, perfect game plan on the pitch. But they targeted Xhaka from minute one, and they wound him up, and they wound him up, and they wound him up, and then they just let him go and let him walk straight into it. Has he got to be a bit more mature? He's not a youngster anymore. He's an international footballer. He's got to be wise to that, hasn't he?
As a liability side, he's it's not the first time he's lost his cool, he's lost his head. And saying that though, I think there's quite a few of the Arsenal players because was it Pepe at Leeds United who let Arteta down with the off the ball incident? So for me, there's a lot of players who are letting the manager down, letting the club down. Listen, that football club's in dire straits, is in absolute turmoil. There's something massively not right with the football club. They're in good hands. I think the manager is the right person for the job, but I think the players need to take massive responsibility. You know what I mean? You can't afford to lose your cool on the pitch. You know what I mean? We're talking about highly played individual Premier League international footballers here. You know what I mean? Laugh things off. You know what I mean? That if people are targeting you, why are they targeting you? Look at the bigger picture. They're targeting you because you're a huge pivotal part of what that football club's trying to do. So if they're trying to wind you up, they're doing it because you have an impact on that game.
Yeah.
And the minute he went off that pitch, then Burnley started getting into that game. They were out the game. They were getting dominated possession. They were corners, shots, everything they were in the game. But the minute he went off that pitch, they started to come into the game. So their tactic was, they'd have probably planned to get him off the pitch in the first 30 minutes. But you know what I mean? Sean Dyche's tactics worked. It's not the greatest way to play and watch football, but do you care when you get 3 points away at the Emirates? You know what I mean? For me, it's a fantastic result for a football club. You look at Sheffield United, 1 point out of 15 games. You know what I mean? Burnley aren't as Burnley are probably the smallest club in the Premier League, and it's probably the result of the season so far.
Yeah, 100%, mate. It got me thinking about previous players who've kind of fallen into that trap. And there's a few questions on the Cardiff game, which I'll come back to in a minute. So the one that sticks out for me is, I think it was Roy Keane and Alan Shearer. Alan Shearer just wound him up. He was talking to him for a few minutes before, and then he went out for a throw-in in the corner.
Yeah, threw the ball at him.
Threw him, and then he ends up, by the end of it, he's got sent off and he's throwing punches. Like Shearer's just smirking to himself.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's been many a wind-up merchant who's got players sent off. Has anyone ever tried to kind of wind you up that way?
Yeah. Listen, there's a few, you know, and obviously there's a lad at the weekend which I didn't know he was still playing, but he's had an amazing career. Wayne Routledge, you know that Wayne's made a career out of being annoying and winding people up. But I tell you what, he's a fantastic footballer, and he can back it up with what he can do. But there's players. Listen, there's players who do it and are really good at it. You know what I mean? There's players who are really bad at it, and you find it funny. But when they're good at it and they get under your skin, it's hard to turn that around, and it's hard to get your composure back. I'm sat here now, and I'm saying that you should know better. I've lost my temper a couple of times and got 2 red cards, which I regret in my career. But at the same time, you learn from it. You know what I mean? And doing it at the high profile and doing it on the biggest stage, I don't think it should be happening. You know what I mean? Especially when the trouble they're in and how laid back the manager is. You know what I mean? Because I'd love to see Arteta's team talks before the game. Everything's composed, isn't it? He doesn't seem to get animated. You know what I mean? Not like Jurgen Klopp at the weekend, where he just seems to be very laid back, very just very casual. But you know what I mean? He obviously seems to get his point across within the right reams, you know. But for me, no, he got let down by his player and players because it's happened. Yeah, it's happened over the last few weeks now. You know what I mean? So this isn't a one-off. And then you're looking at 3-game ban there. Pepe's just coming back, and you know what I mean. And Aubameyang's not scoring. Yeah, he scored an own goal, so you know what I mean. He's not scoring in the right end, but he's not getting the chances. He's not getting. People aren't creating the chances that Arsenal normally get. You know that. Years gone by, you've got the Jack Wilsheres in midfield who can pick a pass out from nowhere. You know what I mean? They haven't got that anymore for me. You know what I mean? They've got more battlers in there. They've got lads who look like they get stuck in and win tackles. Arsenal need that number 10, someone who can get on the ball and spray passes around left, right, centre, get in behind the front two and dominate games from just in behind and in good areas. But they don't have it at the minute for me.
Yeah, 100%. And another thing then, I was kind of thinking, so I got a couple of questions for you on this. Arteta seems to get off very, very lightly in the media compared to, say, an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I believe it's because he's Pep's kind of understudy and they love Pep. But he doesn't get the same level of criticism that Solskjaer gets. But my concern with all Premier League top managers is we're never going to get a new influx of top managers, ex-players, if all the top clubs just sack them every 2 to 3 years. So, like, if they sack Solskjaer, they sack Arteta, it's just going to be the same cycle every 2 or 3 years. Yeah. do what they want him to do and is gone. You got to give him time. And like for me, I think unless they're going to get relegated, you got to give them 5 years to build their own team, which is their players. Because even Solskjaer has been there a few years now. He hasn't got the players that he wants yet. Yeah. Same as Arteta. He's still using players that he doesn't want in the football club. That's very difficult to then create your team and your project. So I believe the only way you can really do it is to give him 5 years, or you back him in one transfer money within just a ridiculous amount of money, and you give them every player they want, which is you can't do that because you can't.
There's got to be a plan side. There's got to be a plan. If that's a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, there's got to be a plan behind the madness. You know what I mean? And that's for me judged on the size of the contract, or the length of the contract. If he signs a 3-year deal, then he's got to be judged towards the end of that season. So if he's in the bottom 5 come his 3rd season, then for me, see you later, you've gone. But if he's then facing and shooting up that Champions League, or he's still in Europe, or he's still in the FA Cup, for me, that's the plan all along, and that's the opportunity. You know what I mean? You've got to give him a transfer window. He's not bought any players as yet. So it'll be interesting to see who he does bring in, how much money he's been given. Been banned for about...
Is that the one from the other...
about 3 months ago. He's been banned for about 3 months. He hasn't served his ban yet. It's outrageous. We haven't played enough games. I think he served 1 game or 2 games of it. It's hilarious.
Oh, bless him. We've got a load of questions.
Serves him right.
He's so bad. He's been banned for months. Reese says Benkovic was quality for Bristol City last season. He doesn't have to drop them. You could just move Nelson to right back. And in fairness, Reese has been very consistent with that. He said it all along, for a while, move Nelson to right back because he's better than Bakuna. Put Bakuna back in the middle of midfield. Bakuna did a good job in midfield for periods. Volks, 1 week he looks like he's the answer. The next week he's doesn't, and I don't know whether he's necessarily a ball winner. It's difficult, isn't it? But Benkovic for
me. We've been very consistent with don't put players in positions square pegs round holes. You know what I mean? Bakuna's not a right back. He's not a right back. You know what I mean? He knows himself. He's not a right back. Swansea City know he's not a right back. Cardiff City's wingers know he's not a right back. You know what I mean? Put him in the position where he wants to be, where he enjoys playing. You know what I mean? Because you're going to get the best and more consistent displays out of him. You know what I mean? But I understand why he's playing there, because he's playing there to get better players on the pitch. He's playing there because they've won 4 games on the belt. But when you play against good players and decent wingers and sides who play some attractive football, you get found out a little bit. And he, along with quite a few others, got found out at the weekend.
Oh yeah. Let's see some of the other questions. Garen Cole says Neil Harris, he's on tricky ground already, and Birmingham, Norwich, and Brentford are the next 3. Lucky to get a point. Do you think?
Birmingham, I just can't work out. So it's probably good timing, because you just don't know what you're going to get from Aitor's side at the minute. You know what I mean? You probably, if you come across a stubborn Aitor side, you're in for a hard game. The other 2 games are going to be tough. Listen, the good sides. But the next game is the most important one, because if you take nothing there, the pressure then ramps up tenfold. And if you don't get nothing there, I don't think you'll be in the job. I think it's the next 2 for me. I think this midweek weekend games are absolutely pivotal for if he keeps his job.
Yeah, they're thick and fast, mate, aren't they?
Yeah.
Donna says she thinks Aidan Flint might be coming back to sit on the injury bench, which is an interesting one.
It's a strange one. A strange one. I seen something that that they're wanting to send him back, but he's had a surgery on his hamstring. So you know what I mean. For me, it's duty of care. You know what I mean. If he's injured playing for your club, you look after him until he's fit. You don't send him back and shake his hand and say see you later. You know what I mean. You've got a duty of care. It's not weird, it's not ethically right.
Yeah, it's always been a bit of a weird one, that has, though, isn't it? Because if the club which owns the player, if they've got better facilities, surely they should be the ones to give them the care. But
it's happened to me before. You know, I've been at clubs and and listen, I was a young lad, and I was quite a hot property at Middlesbrough. Where Middlesbrough let me go out on loan for experience. So when I got injured, they didn't let me stay. They called me back and said, "You're not going back." So I was in a dodgy one, because I remember Brian Robson, Steve Bruce was manager at Sheffield United at the time. Brian Robson told me, he rang me and said, "You're coming back to Middlesbrough on Monday." And I said, "Well, can you ring Steve and tell him?" He went, "No, you're coming back." So obviously I went back to Middlesbrough on Monday morning for treatment because I'd hurt my ankle on the Saturday. He didn't tell Steve. Steve's ringing me up asking where I am. So I'm like caught in the middle of two rock and a hard place, because they're two legends as well. You know what I mean? Two people who are really respected as people, as managers and players. So it's I was caught in between two difficult places at the time.
Gavin Randall says you can't drop Morrison. He scores goals, etc. I don't think anyone's undroppable, and I think if he continues with bad form, you've got to drop him.
But then we're forgetting someone else, aren't we? Are we not forgetting? Are we not forgetting Sol? Are we not forgetting that Sol could Sol could drop back in? You know, listen, because why is Nelson fireproof? Did Nelson have a good game at the weekend?
No,
you know what I mean. So
like anyone did,
you know what I mean. I think you've got to look at that. You know what I mean. If Neil changed the whole of the back four and the goalkeeper, by the way, on Wednesday night against Birmingham City, would anyone be shocked? I wouldn't be, because I thought the first goal was poor.
I would think it was harsh on Smithies, because
listen, so would I.
He saved a penalty on Wednesday. He was the hero.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's harsh. I think it's harsh. But then, if somebody's going to be the fall guy against Birmingham City, then why just them? Because that's for me as a player, as an ex-player, you'll see and go, why is that so? Why just me? Why just me? Why not him or him? You know what I mean? So, but then the managers come back to that is, you're not the only person who's been dropped there, because I've changed the centre forward who's got a hamstring. I've changed the midfielder who's suspended. But you know what I mean? There's the way around it. There's a way around it. Yeah.
Reece says, here's a question for Andy. Do you trust Neil Harris to be given a transfer fund in January? Maybe the question is, will Cardiff trust him? But would you?
It'll be a brave chairman to trust him with how things are going now, because I don't know how many games Cardiff have got until Christmas, but I know obviously around Christmas time, so we're probably looking at 7 games in and around Christmas before the window opens. You know what I mean? For me, I'm not sure whether Cardiff will be in a good enough position to then have somebody come in. Listen, I want Cardiff City to rise up that table and get in the playoffs, but they need help, and they need, for me, the transfer market is a massive time. And is the chairman, is the owner going to put his hand in his pocket for a manager that they're not 100% sure on?
Yeah.
That's a no, in my opinion. Yeah.
No, I don't think they will give him anything. And I mean, here's another question, a follow-up question to that. Out of the players he's signed, like, is anyone tearing up trees? Kiefer Moore is probably the only one.
No, but it's big transfer fees, isn't it? You know what I mean? You could go back to Gratzel, though. You know what I mean? Gratzel signed for big money. Have we had a return on him? No, not yet. Not as yet. I think he's done all right.
Get in there, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he's doing all right. He's been slower than I imagined, than I wanted. I think he would have played more. I think he's done all right this season when he's come in. I think he's really unlucky now that Harris has come in at the right time for him, but wrong time for Gratzel. But I have faith in him. I think he's a natural goal scorer. But how can he score if he's sat on his backside? It's impossible. So, you know, I mean, I'm an advocate for centre forwards and being on the pitch to score goals, because I think he's got it in abundance. He just needs to play more games to get those goals.
Malcolm Durham, welcome, Malcolm. He says, Swansea used the ball well. They had us running around like headless chickens. They're running off the ball. The triangles, runs, passing made us look like amateurs. We were so predictable with the hoof ball, and with Morrison just hoofing the ball forward, he gives the ball to the opposition 9 times out of 10. I think that's a fair comment.
Yeah. Look, listen. There's a style of football which Swansea play, which I've said it all season. It's really pleasant on the eye. It's effective when it works. But there's also something that Neil Warnock did a couple of seasons ago that doesn't matter how pleasing on the eye it is, as long as it gets results and as long as it gets you promoted and you play in the Premier League. So for me, it's all about getting those 5 margins correct and get it right. You know what I mean? Style of football, we all want to watch our team play like Barcelona of Pep's era. You know what I mean? But in realistic terms, it's all about winning games and winning football matches and progressing as a club and being progressive and having things, something on the pitch that you're proud of. And I'm not saying there's many Cardiff fans who watched that at the weekend will be proud of their football club at the minute.
Indeed. Interesting comment here. Gino Stamate says, I am totally cheesed off with Harris as manager. We played better football with Cardiff in the 3rd and 4th division. We've gone backwards. Oof.
Gino, I'll tell you what I will do. I'll praise you for not swearing, by the way, because you sounded a bit annoyed there.
Cheesed off. What a man there. Thank you to Gaz as well.
Top man, Gaz. Listen, Simon, we spoke about this before, haven't we, about Cardiff City, and Cardiff City being era-wise, you know what I mean? You can go back to the time before I came, you know what I mean? Obviously, we had Big Leo on, and talking about the York City promotion at Booth and Crescent, and obviously the playoff final against QPR, and obviously Kev's era, Dave Jones, Malky. I think we've had a lot of success, and now the expectation is to go to another level and be consistent and stay in the Premier League, and get there and stay there. And I can understand the fans' frustrations, because I'm a supporter at the end of the day, and I want that for the football club as well. But it's about being realistic as well, and you know what I mean. For me, the windows are going to be a big one, because I think Cardiff need to fill in some right holes, but have a purpose behind them. You know what I mean? What's their philosophy for the rest of the season? Is it 4-4-2? You know, if it's 4-4-2, then we need a winger. If it's 4-4-2, then do we need a quick centre forward to go up front with a big fella? You know what I mean? Is it 4-4-2? Then we need a new centre half, for example.
Play Harry Wilson off the striker, and
you know what I mean. There's ways and means, but you've got to make those decisions. Those decisions need to be made now. You know what I mean? Because then you're finding the right people. Don't be getting to January and then looking at what's available. Because when people know Cardiff are desperate, then put another £1 million on the price tag. It's just rubbish. It's rubbish.
Donna says she's still waiting for Gavin White to get a start. She thinks he could be our secret weapon.
So you know my thoughts on Gav. I love the way he plays. I was lucky enough to go to the Cardiff Middlesbrough game last year. Obviously, I know Donald will have been there. All the Cardiff fans will have been there. I don't know if anybody remembers it, but Gavin was absolutely unplayable for about 60 minutes until he got brought off, and then Middlesbrough got back into the game. Middlesbrough were awful, by the way, and deserved to lose the game. But Gavin, every time he got the ball, he took the defender on. He beat him inside, he beat him outside. He put crosses in the box. He had his shot. He set the goal up from the corner, and I was just in awe of him. You know what I mean? And I wanted to meet him after the game, which I was lucky enough to do. I've spoken to him a couple of times now, and I was just in awe of him. But then he doesn't get the game time, and I don't know why. You know what I mean? He plays for his national team. He gets a call up. He goes away on international duties. He's training and playing with international footballers. He's going on big stages. So why isn't he getting game time? Especially when we've got no Mendes Lang. It doesn't make sense to me at all whatsoever. Play him.
Yeah, it's puzzling, mate. Right, to wrap us up on Cardiff, I'm going to go with this comment from Rhys David Evans on YouTube. He says, the thing is, you need to look at a manager, and if you see things are progressing, no matter how slow they're progressing, you have something to hope for. Under Harris, we don't seem to be going anywhere. And I think ultimately that's it, is if you can see those improvements, no matter how small the increments are, as long as you're improving, you're comfortable, you're happy, you'll keep going. But if it's backwards more than it's forwards, it's very difficult to feel positive. That's a shout, by the way, from Garen Cole. He says a cheeky bid for Bannon from Sheffield Wednesday would be
Barry Bannon.
That would be a great signing, I got to say. I might get him as well because they're struggling, but should have gone with Eddie Howe or Chris Hughton, James says.
Just on that comment, it's a great comment because I can focus back on last season. Towards the end of the season, I've never seen Cardiff City play like they played. You know what I mean? And we're on about playing with no. Now we're not playing with any, now we're not playing with no fans. But last season we played with no fans, and you've seen the performance at Middlesbrough. You've seen the performance at home. You've seen the performance in the play, even in the playoffs. You know what I mean? There was positives to take from the Fulham game. It was fine margins. You know what I mean? They were so close in getting to the playoff final. That's how different it was. And then your playoff final. I think any team would have beaten Brentford on that day because Brentford didn't turn up. You know what I mean? So it's so frustrating, and every Cardiff fan's the same. But then you look at this season, and for whatever reason, players aren't playing like they were towards the end of the season. You know what I mean? And I'll use Murphy as an example. I've not seen a winger play towards the end of the season as well as he was playing, and then all of a season, the start of the season, he's not played, and I don't understand it. If that was a different manager, I'd go, oh, yeah, the manager doesn't fancy him, but it's the same manager, so I don't
Well,
understand
we've
it.
said all along, he is a player who needs to play 4, 5, 6 games in a row to feel like he's got the confidence of the manager, and dipping in and out of it just gives. He's always nervous then, isn't he? So he'll always, when you're nervous, you don't always make the right decisions under pressure. And that's where I think perhaps the Cardiff team struggles, is when under pressure, they make wrong decisions.
Yeah, and this is my concern. Side, like I look at the way that we're playing. You stick fans in that stadium now, right? Every player won't want the ball. The manager won't want to stand there. You know what I mean? The amount of abuse the players, the manager's going to get. You know what I mean? And it'll be a negative moving forward. You know what I mean? So for me, decisions, and these are tough decisions, by the way, from people upstairs. Unfortunately, they've got to be done. And if that's back the manager, then back the manager. Back in with the transfer kitty. You know, if that's what they're going to do, come out publicly. And I'm a big advocate for that. You know what I mean? And I'm quite lucky with Middlesbrough chairman Steve Gibson, because he always comes in and he's always very honest. You know what I mean? He'll either make that tough decision and sack a manager, or he'll back him and give him quite a lot of money to go and spend in the January window or the transfer end of season window, and back your players. Yeah,
spot on, mate. Spot on. Obviously, Neymar, serious injury. No one wants to see that. One of the best players to be playing. Wish him well. Apparently recovering with his sister. But it's a serious ankle injury by all accounts. I haven't seen the tackle, but apparently it was a nasty one, mate.
Yeah, I did see the tackle. And
to Instagram to say so.
Yeah, part of me was a little bit skeptical, because Neymar does like to get a Christmas injury and spend a lot of time with his sister. But listen, no one wants to see anybody get injured in tackles of that caliber. And not wanted in football anymore, because especially with boots and the way that the pitches are made at the minute, you know what I mean? There's no give at them. There's no give with the pitches and the footwear. So injuries can be even worse and even nastier. And when you don't want any kind of injury, because we want the best players on the pitch, don't we? You know, I watched the Champions League, and obviously I know the draw was made today, and you want the best players on the biggest stage, on the biggest pitch, and be ready for the World Cup, for example, coming up, because. You know what I mean? I'm a big international fan, and I want my country and I want Wales, I want England, I want Scotland, I want all the teams to play the best teams and beat the best players, because that proves the best. Don't be beating Brazil and say, oh, they only beat them because Neymar wasn't there. You know what I mean? We beat Brazil because Neymar plays. You know what I mean? We want the best players on the pitch.
Yeah, and I think they're playing Barcelona as well in the Champions League, which you want him in playing.
Yeah.
But it's difficult, isn't it? Because when you've got a player who rolls around the way he does with every little touch, you just never know how serious the injury or how bad the tackle is. But I just saw a little clip of it. It was quite bit naughty, should we say. Right. So to finish this off, mate, let's reminisce a little bit.
Go for it.
So, obviously, back in the day when I was in the very early days of Ace Podcast Nation, I was contacting ex-footballers or people see if they were interested. I tweeted you and said, can you come on my podcast and can I interview you? And we did a little show. I interviewed you. We talked about your career, that goal and whatnot. We got on quite well. We hadn't spoken before that. And then I think probably about a month or so later, I said, I got this idea, championship show. No one's really doing a championship podcast. Think it could be quite good. Would you be interested? And you were like, yeah, let's go. What was your reaction when I said championship show, pal?
Listen, Si, I think from day one when we spoke, we had we had a good rapport. We got on really well. We what I like about what we do is we don't get on. That sounds wrong, by the way. We don't agree on the same things. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Which I think works. It's not. It's not a thing where we blow smoke up each other's backside. You know what I mean? It's everyone's, like I just said earlier on. We've got an opinion, and that opinion is right because you believe it's right, and I believe mine's right. You know what I mean? That's what I like. And I love talking about my career. I love talking about the times that I had, because you know what I mean. You're only a footballer for a short length of time, and then when it's gone, it's gone. And I never really believed that until it had gone, and there's no getting it back. I've tried, and there's no getting it back. But no, when you said about doing a show, it was something that I really enjoyed doing. I love talking about football. I love watching football, and the Championship at the time was, you know what I mean. It was for me better than the Premier League. It was more inviting. There was loads going on. You know what I mean. The highlights are extendable on various platforms, and I just thought, there was an opportunity to do something which was great, but obviously didn't go to plan because of something attacked us. But yeah, I think it's made it more interesting, made it better. It made it a little bit more exciting, because I know we had a few long conversations, didn't we, over Zoom at the time about what do we do next. Because I remember when COVID came and we weren't able to cover live games or cover games anymore.
Yeah.
It was deciding what we do. Do we stop? Do we carry on? Do we try something different? And I'm not sure how we came up with the idea, but
I think it happened naturally.
What an idea it was.
Because we obviously, you had, during that period as well, you and your lovely partner Sophie, you had a baby, so you missed 2 shows, and I think we had, obviously Kev stepped in for you while you were away with the baby, and I kind of think, and then I think he came on then, didn't he? Like the week after that, when you came back, we had it, or the couple of weeks after that, and I think it kind of organically developed where we were like, oh, we could get some people on. So we kind of went into that, and we thought, right, well, so every Monday we'll get a different guest, a manager, a player, a referee, whatever, and we'll just talk about their career. People, it's different to when other podcasts do an interview with a footballer, because you don't have that instant ask a question, get it answered. You don't have that access to players. And the one thing I'm quite proud of with all our, if you want to call them interviews, but all our shows, with whoever they are, whether it's with Mehmet Dalman, who does no media, or Emil Heskey, who's an ex-England international, whoever it may be, is we have a natural conversation, we have a chat. It's not like a formal question and answer thing. And every guest has been very, very honest in their answers, sometimes too honest.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You know what I mean? I'll tell all the viewers the story. I remember how excited I was when I'd reached out to Emil. I think it was on LinkedIn. You know what I mean? I noticed he was on there. It hadn't really been on social media, so I sent him a message and sent. Don't know which one's which. Who's saying who's Greavesy? So I sent him a message.
Which one was the bold one?
Greavesy. I went. No, I can't remember. That was Saint, wasn't it? Was it Saint?
No, Greavesy was
Jimmy Greaves. Jimmy Greaves. Yeah, that's me then, isn't it? So I was sat in the front room watching TV one early morning, and my phone flashed up, and I just looked at it. It was a number with a message, and it said Emil Heskey on the bottom. So I couldn't get hold of my phone fast enough and tried to unlock it. I just wanted to see what it said, and just said he'd come on the show, and it was one of those moments, wasn't it, where it just proved to us that we were doing the right thing, because I'd said to him, look at old shows and things, and some of the guests that we've had on, it's just been. It's been phenomenal. It's been fun. It's been different. Everyone's been different. There hasn't been two where I'd compare and say you can't compare them. You know what I mean? Yeah. We've had even the ones where we've had you know what I mean. I'll use Barry's as a prime example. The guys who when Barry Hales did the interview in his caravan when he was away with the family was just the most
comical,
surreal and comical thing I've ever done. His stories were unbelievable, because we could hear more probably than anybody else could hear, but we just couldn't get the final part of the jokes out. And he was just, you know what I mean. We spoke to Barry previously to get him to come on, and Barry will be coming back on, by the way, because Barry's
He's a phenomenal guy.
Barry's
Really charismatic.
Barry's charisma. Barry's just the way he enjoys life. He's just a proper geezer. Love him. Yeah, I really like him.
Stewie Downing was one of the first guests as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, Stewie was.
Him and Kev were like the first couple, and I think initially we started off. It was like, oh, you know a few people, I know a couple, and we'll kind of like, we'll go with who we know, and then obviously you get to a point where you've done everyone, or you've exhausted your personal contacts. So it's like, right, we got to do this, and we got to contact people, and we got to be professional about it, because I got to be honest, like obviously I've contacted various people of various like actors and bands, and particularly MMA. I've got a lot of fighters from some of the biggest companies in the world on for the different shows, and that's just through like contacting them, just saying, this is what we do, would you fancy coming on? Whereas footballers, they're different breeds. You've got to approach it a certain way, haven't you? You've got to kind of gradually build up to it, because if you just go straight in there, they can be a bit standoffish or just ignore you. It's difficult, and that's not a criticism, by the way. That's just football is a very different to any other walk of life. They're in a kind of bubble.
Yeah, well, I'm just like, if anybody follows on social media and follows on Instagram, if you go on obviously the story, which I always put the new guest on the old story, so you know what I mean. So I'm just looking at some, like, I listen to it makes you proud, doesn't it, that you see some of the guests we've had. Obviously Kev was the first one, because obviously you gave me the order to put them in, and I've added them on since. But if you can you guess number 10, Si? Who number 10? The 10th guest was? Remember it?
If you told me the one before or after, I might be able to. But I don't.
The one before was John O'Greening, and the one after was Cav. So it was the one in between.
Oh my gosh, that's a difficult one. Oh, I should know that. Oh,
big name, big. It was a big one.
So it wasn't Emil, was it? Because Emil
that was a big one. Current player.
So we had. We had Charlie Adam, didn't we?
Charlie, yeah.
Well, and we've had a couple of current players, which the current players are obviously very difficult to get on. And like one day I'll tell the story about a certain club who said yes and then said no, basically, in regards to players, which was disappointing. To say that,
but some special shows. Sorry, I like the I like the non-league one which we did with Geth and Jason Ainsley. I thought that was extra special with 4 people. That was the first time we tried it, and I thought it was excellent. I thought the questions. I thought how fun it was. It was. I loved the live one as well. By the way, that was good. We really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that one. I like the supporters one.
Yeah, that was different, mate, as well.
That was good. Joe Jacobson, I thought was outstanding. You know what I mean? Young Joe's 30 plus.
Yeah, I know. I can believe that. I tell you what, I thought was very good is Robbie Stockdale. I thought
Robbie was good. Yeah, Robbie was good.
So Rob Boyle says, "Do you have a favourite guest so far?"
We spoke about this earlier, didn't we? You know what I mean? So it's a great question. For me personally, for the amount of fun and laughter, and some of the stories and some of the things he said, I'm going to say John O'Greening. John O had a dig at my brother Neil, a couple of times, and I just thought how honest he was about leaving York City for Man United, and that he could have signed for Spurs, and just how bouncy and energetic he was. I thought he was outstanding, and I thought, you know what I mean, he's just a genuine nice fella, and the career he's had is phenomenal. If you follow him on social media, he puts on something every Thursday about Throwback Thursday, and you forget how successful he was at West Brom and Fulham and Middlesbrough and Man United and York City. It's just sometimes you forget, don't you?
Oh yeah. So I find it very difficult to pick like one guest. So I'm going to whittle it down to 3. Kevin Ratcliffe, I thought, was outstanding.
Yeah, I like Kev.
Danny Gabardon's episode was one of my favourite evenings ever. He's a big hero of mine. And I was like beforehand a little bit nervous, but like within minutes, it was just. And he stayed, by the way, for 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah,
we just talked, and it was cracking. It was amazing. But I think like my top one, Mehmet Dalman, for various reasons, he doesn't do any media and press and stuff like that. He was, and Reece says that he was a huge episode because no question was off limit. Would love to see him back on and get some questions now.
If we could have recorded the things that we were talking about before the show, you know what I mean? Because I'm not saying he said anything that he didn't. But we were being honest. He was being open, and then we threw the same questions at him, by the way, on the show, and he answered them in a similar vein. But I agree. I really like that. I like the Harry Harris ones. I like talking about. Oh, listen, and me and Si spoke about this today.
Harry Harris, by the way,
obviously Harry Harris. Obviously, he's been on a couple of shows. I read Harry's book about Emiliano Sala. I read that book in 3 days. I'd never read a book in my life. My dad will tell everybody in the group chat. I've never read a book in my life. And I was so excited about having him on the show. I read his book cover to cover, and it was amazing, absolutely amazing. And then loved doing the interview because I had so much information in my tiny head that it was just great. It was great.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. Gavin said he missed the Mehmet Dalman one. Where were you, Gav? I'll post a link for you now. But yeah, there's so many shows, current players, ex-players, but Mehmet Dalman, like, not just like to get him was massive for us, massive. But then when we asked, like me and you were speaking before, and we were like, obviously I spoke to him on the phone and had a chat about the show, explained to him the format, etc., etc. But then me and you were talking, and we were like, whilst he doesn't do a lot of media, he's very media savvy. So if there's something he doesn't want to answer, he'll go around it and he'll do it well. And to his credit, like he answered everything, everything, and he was honest, and he was so personable. Like it wasn't like he felt like any other guest. Do you know what I mean? Like he was just really chatty. Obviously Ernie we had on as well.
Yeah, and he was excellent as well. Another one, and I agree. It's not disrespectful, but you know what I mean. That I only said obviously Jono because of some of the stories he was telling. I can relate to it because I grew up obviously watching him and watching my brother, and you know what I mean, and being involved in that kind of group, and it like takes you back to your childhood a little bit and reminds you about the fun and happy times and stuff. So no, it was amazing, and isn't that? I love doing this because we get to talk to people who are heroes to us. You know what I mean? So it's absolutely fantastic. And to that answer, who put that on their side? That was Gavin. I think it's a strong possibility. Yes, I think it could be a yes, but I don't think it'll be when the season's on. I'm not sure what Neil's plans are in the summer. If he is going to carry on as a manager, or if he's going to eventually call it a day. But I'd definitely be giving him a call and asking him, or begging him. I'll beg him to be fair.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And like, what people sometimes, what I forget now sometimes is we're coming up to 100 episodes. Me and you are obviously good friends. Is I try not to forget that 2 years ago, say, yourself, Gabs, Ernie, people like this, these were heroes who I used to watch play football on a TV and in the ground. And then all of a sudden, I'm sat here in my house chatting to you. I speak to you on the phone most days. I've tried very hard not to get lost in it, and I appreciate like how lucky I am. And not just for the guests, but I appreciate the people who watch. Like that Mehmet Dalman show has been viewed, I think, over 10,000 times now on the various platforms and audio downloads, and like thousands of people watch us each week. I can't thank the people enough, because at the end of the day, like me and Andy do this because we love it. We do it and we want to grow it, and we want to, some of the comments we get about, oh, you should be on TV or radio or blah, blah, get the show on this and that. Like, they mean so much to us. And like, we're just, hurtling along 2 episodes a week. But we couldn't do it if you guys weren't watching, weren't downloading the show, weren't sharing the show and commenting, asking questions. And I, for one, fully appreciate it massively.
But that's what we said, didn't we? We said about obviously when the championship did eventually come back round and football started again. And, we had that decision to make, didn't we? We said, yes. do we just carry on with the show that people love, people enjoy doing? And we ummed and ahed, didn't we? And then we said, well, hang on a minute. We're talking about a show which a lot of people watched, a lot of people downloaded, a lot of people interacted with, a lot of people wanted to talk about. So we had to try and find a space in a busy schedule for both of us and find a time which was right. And I think Friday works perfectly for the football, with it being the next day tomorrow, when it is a Friday. I just think it's brilliant because it gives us an opportunity then to talk about the midweek games. It gives us an opportunity to talk about things that are up and coming, and I just find it just enthralling. I'm just so enthusiastic about it. It's the area which it's the passion where we started. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to give it up, and you know what I mean. I think it'll get obviously looked at every single summer, every single end of the season, because to see how we can evolve, see how we can better, see how we can change. I know a lot of people have said do lives, try a live. We obviously tried one. I thought it was extremely successful. Loved it. It was long. It was tiring, but it was. I loved it. I thought it was great, and it's just having the right opportunity and the right timing to do it again and again and again.
Yeah, and it was finding the right time. I think we used to do it at 7, and we moved it slightly to just to try and change things up. And like I say, we didn't want to give up the championship focus, but we also felt that we wanted to evolve the show and pursue guests to grow it. And I feel like we've done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
So if I said to you, and people ask us this quite a lot as well, like if your ideal point for where the Andy Campbell Football Show would be this time next year, on the 14th of December 2021, what would be your ideal?
Well, as long as it was still run by us, and it was still our idea, and it was still the way that we wanted to focus it. I'd like it to be on a platform which was available for anybody and everybody. You know what I mean? If that's, you know what I mean, if that was on a radio, if that was on a live studio, if that was on live TV or something, you know what I mean, or streamed or whatever. I just think that it's a concept for me, Si, which I'm passionate about. You know what I mean? It's a concept of this was our idea. You know what I mean? This was we every time we've changed it, every time we tweaked with something. You know what I mean? And that's social media. That's the show. That's the way that you do things on StreamYard and stuff, which is amazing, by the way. You know what I mean? That they're all collectively our ideas. You know what I mean? So for someone else to have an impact, it would. For someone else to have an impact, by the way, it would cost them a lot of money. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it'd have to be worth it, wouldn't it? Like, because, like, what you got to understand is the only reason me and you don't do this in a studio or some sort of room together is because we live so far apart. Yeah. So if you lived in Cardiff, for instance, we would do this in a studio or whatever, and we would do that like on our own.
Yeah,
we wouldn't need.
I'm just laughing at Donna's comments.
To do it.
I'm just laughing at Donna's comment. Put that.
Which one?
the last comment.
This is much better than the old format I used to talk for 3 hours about the game, although you kept me company on my long runs. Well, we didn't want to leave anyone out, did we?
Yeah, it's right. It's right. To be fair, Donna, you still probably had another 45 minutes rest of your run, so I think we got you through. I think we got you through. And
I think Andy John says there. He says, "What about an extra guest, or would it be too much?" Do you mean like having 2 guests on the show?
Like 4. We've tried it, I mean, it worked.
It does. Yeah. Like it's doable. I had 2 guests. Me and Danny had 2 guests on the MMA show last week. 2 guys from the UFC. It is doable. I think it does become a little more congested.
Yeah. You also need to host it as well, Si, don't you? You know what I mean? So you need to host it and bring people in. You know what I mean, to the questions, because if everyone's talking at the same time, it can just be a bit of a mess and I think it worked last time because you at the start, and rightly so, you know what I mean. You asked the questions to the three of us and brought everybody in at the right time, and I thought it worked perfectly. But it only works if somebody's happy to take control.
Yeah, and I'm happy to guide the subjects and things like that. I think some amazing comments. Like one just caught my eye there is Reese says, hopefully post-COVID, it'd be great to have one in a pub for all the viewers can go and watch live with some guests like Andy and Kev and that. Like,
that's a good shout.
That someone else suggested that doing like a live one because obviously I think the other thing to remember is like everything which we do, all the equipment which I've got and stuff like this, lights and cameras and all that sort of stuff. Like it's all self-funded. Like everything which we have done is built from us and our idea. We have support from Black Diamond Sports, obviously who help us out and stuff like that, guide us and whatnot. Bespoke Financial sponsor the shows. We had previous help from Away Day Apparel and stuff like that. But like ultimately, it's us. It's independent. There's no kind of company above us telling us what to do and who to have on the show and that sort of thing. And it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort, and it takes a bit of it takes a bit of cash to start with, should I say? But do it because we love it, man. I wanted to refer back to one comment which I saw. I can't find it now.
Stevie Owens has just put a comment on the bottom there. Well, last one because I know Gavin's just put one on. And we've talked about this, haven't we? Because this was one of our ideas when we were in COVID. We were going to do a non-league show, which we did with Jason and Geth. It's on the list, mate. I tell you, because and Steve is a good mate of mine, by the way. I've known Steve for years, and because for me, the position that I got in I wouldn't be anywhere without grassroots football. You know what I mean? Everyone who's played football, there's a history with grassroots football, and I think sometimes it gets forgotten about. And the amount of money which doesn't get ploughed in is a travesty at the minute for me, and it needs to be. But that's a point we'll cover on the show. But Steve, I'm onto it, mate. Don't worry about that.
Indeed. Gavin Randall says, "Can I come on the show?" So at the end of the season, we'll likely do probably another fan show of some sort where we'll have like a few different fans from different clubs and stuff on the Friday show. Because that was enjoyable. Hopefully, I want to get Boatsy back on because his connection was shocking. Yeah. But I was looking forward
to
Forest point of view, but we just couldn't hear anything he was saying or whatnot. But it was a lot of fun. Rob Boyle asked him, "Are we going to do a Euro series through the summer?" I would say it's probably
I like that.
Like a Friday show, or although someone suggested, I can't remember who it was. The other in the midweek, they dropped a comment on one of them. I think it was Instagram, and they said that we should do like a couple of shows a week in the Euros and treat it as a TV wrap up thing, just on YouTube and that. And I was like, oh yeah. More shows, more time. But when I thought about it afterwards, I thought that could be quite interesting. And it doesn't have to be like an hour and a half long, does it? You could do like a 20-minute, half-hour live talk about, because especially in the group stage where you've got like 3 games a day, and you can kind of do a half-hour wrap-up live and stuff. There's a lot of, there are lots of different.
We'll
could possibly discuss them all by year.
No, we do whatever suits everyone else.
Yeah. One thing I will say is there's a couple of guests on the horizon, not too far away, which let's just say that the majority of the comments tonight have been of a certain football club. Let's just say that there's a couple on the horizon early next year, which people might enjoy, because I don't want to spoil it.
No.
We've got to wait.
Say our Christmas presents to everybody.
Indeed. Listen, I think that's us for today. I want to thank every single person who's commented, because we've had a phenomenal amount of comments today.
I lost track. I lost track once. There was about 50. So apologies if I missed something.
Yeah, I've missed loads of comments that because obviously I got the 3 platforms all together, but there's just too many now. But that's good. I appreciate everybody who's watched on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and everyone who will watch and download between now and Monday. I appreciate it.
That last comment, put that one up. That's tickled me. That's a way to finish.
Andy
John, yeah. No, the next one.
His excuse will be, I'm playing at right back. He's got me. He's going to run out of excuses soon enough. Andy says, don't forget to get that elusive photo for me over Christmas. Alan says, Campbell. Well, yeah, there we go. I'm going to quickly flip through some of these comments. How about having a 15-minute ref watch each week to discuss the weekend's decisions?
Who said that?
Your dad.
Does he? Is he going to do? He can do it.
Yeah. Reese, not saying that. That's rude. We got very quickly. But in the meantime, got a show with Swansea City fan and Bellator Bantamweight Wednesday, the Danny Batten fight show, where we cover the Joshua fight, the UFC, and everything in between. And Brett was quite kind to me, actually. We filmed it Sunday night, and he wasn't too bad to me with the football. He gave me a little bit at the start, but he was a good lad. He's a top bloke. But that's our Wednesday. Friday, we'll be back for the championship show. And look out for something. I got the rest of the conspiracy theory show is dropping, probably starting this Sunday. And lots of stuff coming up. But we'll be back next Monday, 100th episode. Join us.
Yep.
Spread the word.
Big guest.
Top man. Andy, as ever, is a pleasure.
Oh, mate, loved it. And thanks to everybody for the comments, questions. My special Magnificent Seven, loved it. Really enjoyed it.
I'll clip that, definitely, because it's had to be done. I nearly forgot. Tomorrow, 7:30, it's the Super Kev Unscripted Christmas Special. 7:30 live. Kevin McNaughton and myself will be, among other things, talking about our top 10 favourite Christmas films. It's always a good time. So make sure you get in the live comments and wish us a happy Christmas. Guys, you're legends.
Yeah.
Second tomorrow.
Take it easy. See you guys.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my Auntie Louise told mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if mummy or daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so it wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and mummy and daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.